Alright, so you see the parcel. That's your box. I haven't opened it yet. Still sealed. Got my shirt ready to go. Huge mess behind me because I literally... What the fuck is going on?
People in the background being loud.
So I literally pushed everything aside to do this.
Box is huge.
That's what she said.
Did you hear the new Halo game's to be on PC?
Did you hear I didn't care?
Ish.
Get that out of there. So this is what I got. And this was supposed to be full of air to protect it, but it didn't work out.
Really not.
So we have the new combat gauge. It's 5-sided, and it lets you quickly measure the common distances. Doesn't actually tell you what they are, so you just have to know that it's 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, and 5 inches. But it's just a little widget to help you out. We'll probably never speak of it again. I got the new open war cards.
What are those?
So, what they do is in the rule book, which is inside the big INDOMITUS box, they have a bunch of missions and whatnot, and you roll dice and figure out, what they are. Or you can use the open war cards and get your deployments, your twists, your ruses, your sudden death conditions, and your objectives.
Okay.
So instead of rolling, you can shuffle the deck and draw. It's exactly the same. There's nothing different between the two, but it's just more fun to draw cards and to open your book, find the page, and roll the dice.
That's pretty sweet.
And also, it saves you from lugging around the entire book.
Yeah.
We got the limited edition, first come, first serve, Warhammer dice bag that only people who order them day one can get.
Nice.
And inside of it is a bunch of acrylic objective markers. I'm going to have to peel the protective layer off when I want to use them. But these are also limited edition. Something that didn't come in that bag that I was supposed to get was a coin, a metal coin, that had Necrons on one side and Space Marines on the other, but that might have been too limited. We got the new Chapter Approved 2020. It's actually 2 books. The Tournament Edition and the Munitorium. God damn it. The Munitorium Field Manual has all the points, all the updated points for every model that they currently have, and it's hidden underneath the Grand Tournament 2020 because it's a smaller book.
Nice.
That doesn't come with Indominus. It was released at the same day, but you have to pay for that separate. We got the new objective set. So there's 3 objectives for Space Marines, 3 objectives for Necrons. I bought the objective markers, which once again is a separate purchase, because this is the first official Games Workshop terrain that wasn't an entire battlefield unto itself for Necrons.
Nice.
So even if I don't use them as objective markers, they're cool terrain models.
They are pretty cool.
And Oh, here it is. Here's my special edition coin.
Crinkle, crinkle.
So it's got Ultramarines and Necrons.
Nice.
I'm not going to fart around trying to open it, but it's really handy for the Indomitus set when you're deciding who goes first, because in the Indomitus set, which is this bad boy here, you have Ultramarines, well, you can paint them as any Space Marines, and Necrons, which, no matter what Necrons you paint them as, they're still Necrons. So let's get into this. Absolutely massive box.
How are you planning on painting them?
As Ultramarines and the Sawtek Dynasty. Featured on the back is the Zerekin Dynasty, that of the Silent King. I will paint the Silent King in his own colors, and I will always paint named characters in their faction colors, but I'm not going to paint the rank and file troops anything different than the ones I play.
Makes sense to me.
See if we can get a better view. There we go.
And of course, it couldn't let a large Necron be the centerpiece of the box art. It had to be a
Yeah,
Ultramarine.
you had to be a Space Marine. Everyone's like that. It's like, look at all these Necrons, but what's the centerpiece? A Space Marine. Of course it is. It's got a lot of suction. Okay.
Oh.
And it's a really nice, like, double layer box. Has that stale cardboard smell. So, first things first, we have this sheet here, which is a nice little divider, artwork on it.
It better get hung up.
It's going to sit in the lid of the box for now, or maybe it won't feel like it. There it is. Here's all the sprues. Got your new Primaris Bikers. You've got your Overlord of Tachyon Arrow, and Primaris Captain with Relic Shield and Sword. You've got your Royal Warden and Sergeant with Storm Shield and regular Power Sword. You've got your Assault Marines. You've got more Assault Marine. They're not just Assault Marines, they're Assault Intercessors, because Assault Marines aren't Primaris. You've got your Scorpec Destroyers. This sprue has the Canoptic Reanimator. It has... that's all the big long pieces. It has the Servitors, the little guys that follow Cryptek around. Everyone calls them murder buckets because they look like buckets with scythe arms.
Murder buckets.
Yeah, people like that. Also on this sprue is a little flea thing that follows the destroyers around. I also can't remember the name of. Anything else? The Scorpec Lord is on this sprue. And I think the Plasmancer is on here too. Yeah, Plasmancer's on here too. There's part of his robe. So there's a lot going on in this sprue. But the big guy is only 5 parts. So I bought half my friend's Indomitus box. And here's what they look like built. Here's the Reanimator. It's literally 5 or 6 parts.
Kind of cool looking.
Here's the Overlord of Tachyon Arrow. Here's the Royal Warden. Here's one of the 3 destroyers. The Scorpec Lord. It's really cool. The Murder Buckets. Don't they though?
Yeah.
The new Scarab base, which is the Swarm style. Little flea guy. He looks so much like a flea.
What else?
Plasmancer, who has no legs, just a floating spine.
He ain't got no legs.
I think in the book, this particular Plasmancer is actually female Cryptek. And the new warrior with the new weapon, the Gauss Reaper, which just looks like a stubby immortal weapon. And that is a little sample of everything for Necrons and Indomitus. And here's your 2 sprues of warriors and scarabs. 10 warriors and 3 scarabs per sprue. Here's a little piece of plastic.
Where's the man, the myth, the legend himself?
And then this is going to have your Blade Guard, your Ancient, and your Chaplain. Chaplain's up at this end. It's the Crozius. And the Eradicators with their little flamethrower meltaguns.
Meltaguns?
I'm pretty sure they have meltaguns. And that's the box. Here's another divider. It's exactly the same as the last one, so it's not like a continuous image. This one's a little bit of damage from the sprues, but that's okay, because I got 2 of them, and it's much better. That's damaged. Then this. You get the Edge of Silence, which is like the story so far for the box.
Gonna leave it sealed?
No, because in the same bag is also the instructions. The full color instructions. Very nice. This is the special edition 9th edition core rulebook. It's got Dark Imperium, which was the last box set. It's got all kinds of story time, hundreds and hundreds of pages of pictures of models and story time. And it's got all the scenarios and the how to play rules.
So what makes that one limited edition as compared to what your typical person would get?
The cover. The only thing different is the full art cover.
Okay.
If you buy this book, and they're out of limited, they do sell limited edition separately. If they run out, you will just have a book. My core rule book's kind of buried, but it'll have a border, and it'll have the logo on the front.
That's it?
That'll be, yeah. It'll have a border, and it'll have a logo. And it might have less epic art. I'm not sure. I haven't seen it. Here's your Indomitus. You can get the book, but it's got a QR code, so I gotta hold my thumb over it. Because I don't want people to steal my QR code. Here's your transfer sheet. It has transfers for Ultramarines, Blood Angels, Space Wolves, Dark Angels, and Sergeants, Squaddies, Deathwing Company, Ravenwing Company, vehicle markings. It's an entire transfer sheet for Space Marines.
Any of my favorites?
Probably not, because I'm pretty sure that you like Heretic Astartes, and also these are like the 4 featured ones. Like everyone loves Space Wolves.
I liked the ones that are essentially dead men walking. I can't remember what they're called.
Yeah, I think you're thinking of the Heretic Astartes, known as the Thousand Suns.
No, I wasn't thinking of Thousand Suns. I was thinking of the Marines who've gone into, was it Black Rage or something?
The Death Company.
Yeah.
So the Death Company is like a subsection of the Blood Angels, so they do have all that.
Oh, cool.
We got the main Blood Angels in the Death Company.
Cool.
But we're not done yet. All the bases. So, Because it's a push-fit kit, the bases are also push-fit. They have little holes in them. Now, what that allows you to do, which I find handy, let's say I find the Royal Warden, for example. So when I'm painting him, there's like a little bit between the legs it's hard to get to because of his half cape and his gun. So I did glue all the pieces together, even though it's push fit. You don't have to, but I chose to. But I didn't glue them to the base, which means I can pop him off the base really easily, get all those hard to reach areas, and then I'm done painting. I simply slot him back in the hole.
There you go.
So I'm going to be doing all my models like that until they're painted. I'm going to paint them, pop them off the base when I need to, and I can pop them back on if I need something to hold on to. And then once they're done and the base is ready, then I'm going to actually glue them onto the base.
Why not leave them off? So if you're going to play on a different battlefield, you can change them.
Because all my Necrons use the same base, so it's fine. And all my Space Marines use the same base. They won't match each other, but they'll match themselves. And that's the important. When you're building a Warhammer army, that's what's important, is you have a unified scheme for your army. You don't really have to worry about what your opponent has. So, what I think we'll start, it's going to take hours and hours to build all this kit. But what we're going to do... How dare he put that plastic gold on the floor? It's the Indomitus box. Oh my god. That's what's going through people's heads. We're actually going to build this kit. The terrain set. Because, at this point, famous people have had the Indomitus box for weeks. Some people had time to stream it on release day, which was just 2 days ago from the time of this stream. But I don't think anyone's really showed off the objective set. And I'm actually more excited for the objective set than I am for the Indomitus box, to be honest. But, of course I'm excited for the Indomitus box. But this objective set, it does mean a lot. Now, it does say you can go on Citadel Color for a painting guide. I have the app, and they haven't updated the app in 1,000 years. I even deleted it and re-downloaded it, just in case. And none of the new stuff that they've done guides for is actually on the app. So I might just delete the app, and when I need a painting guide, I'll go onto their web store page, and they have painting guides linked there. Because the box is crushed, I'm opening both sides. Okay. It's actually
Waiting for a moment due to vacuuming.
Yeah. It's actually a thicker cardboard than most photo boxes. So, we're going to have...
So why is that plastic a different color?
So, they did the Indomitus in a different batch. So they actually had special molds made for the push-fit models. The Blade Guard already has announced a regular kit, which will be in this darker plastic. They don't really weigh any different, but this one you definitely glue together, and this one's push-fit. So I think they just did different batches for the different kits.
I guess that makes sense.
So all the objectives have the same size base, which is very important because in 9th edition, you measure your objective from the edge of the base and not from the center. Now they recommend you use 40 millimeter, which I believe all of these are. Doesn't actually say.
And when they say they recommend, doesn't that actually mean they require as per the rules?
Yeah, so before it didn't matter how big your objective was because you measured from the center. So I have these objectives, laser cut acrylic. And in the old rules, you measure from the center of the objective. So this objective and this objective are the same size in 8th edition. In 9th edition, you measure from the edge. So this objective is bigger than this objective.
Okay.
So what that means is they had to standardize the size of the objective. So these bases are actually slightly larger than 40 mil, so they're 60 mil. Right? Because I'm pretty sure Scarabs use 40 mil bases.
I believe so. I
So,
think I remember you saying that.
Hilariously, the official objective set is actually larger than their objective bases, but that's fine. It's Games Workshop, they can do whatever they want. First one up is, it's like a chair tank, kind of Sisters of Battley. So we need 1A, 1B, and 1C, which are this one. I always try really hard to build on camera, but it's not always easy. And this faces that direction. And then B is this tread. I always want to, so the clippers are beveled. So you always want to push the flat side right against the model so that the beveled blade will cut very precisely and not leave much to clean up. So the edges are already pretty clean. They'll just need a little bit of a scrape to smooth out. As often as possible, you want to do that. It's not always possible because sometimes we put a flow channel on a round part, which, if you're using a flat blade to cut on a round part, there's going to be some overhang. And then we're just going to gently scrape. You don't want to cut. You just want to kind of scrape it.
Scrape it good.
You could use, they actually made a tool for it, which I have. It's over here, because I prefer using the knife, because sometimes you do have to cut it. But they have this edging tool, which is just flat in different shapes, and just find the side that you want and gently scrape away. I find, though, that this tool causes more damage to the surrounding area than the hobby knife does.
Couldn't you technically use sandpaper too if you really wanted to?
You could, and you could also use files, which I have a rough and a fine. And you can come in here. You can get it nice and smooth. And as long as you don't feel anything, like, you can still see where the cut was. It's a little bit whiter. But as long as you can't feel anything, when you paint over it, it'll be smooth. Because the paint will just show the texture. Now, what might I want to do?
I was gonna say, what if you used a like a ridiculously fine grit, almost automotive sandpaper, like they use for finishing for painting? You think you might be able to get an interesting texture out of that?
You're really just going for maximum smoothness. I'm not going to worry about cleaning out the bottom of the treads too much because that's going to be contacting the bottom. Just the top treads.
Because that could give you like a really interesting glassy type bit.
The thing is, like, modeling paint is matte. So no matter what you do, it'll always come out matte.
Ah.
And the reason
Are there
for that
people?
is shiny models look awful.
Do they really?
Yes.
Wouldn't there be bits on them though that would look good shiny? Like say you were doing something that had like energy channels or eyes that glow or whatever.
So they actually have paints for that. Alright, just making sure that I don't get this on backwards. So before you glue, you dry fit. Make sure that everything is in the right order. And then, for this particular piece, the contact is underneath. So we're just going to put a bit of glue underneath and a little along the side. Then when we stick it together, everything connects. And we'll do a little bit of pressure. We're using plastic glue. It melts the glue on both sides and then fuses them together. You get some on your finger. Just wipe it off. It's a little bit tacky, but it won't really stick to your skin.
Did you just call me tacky?
Yep. It is still glue, so don't leave it on your skin because it's toxic. It's not immediately toxic, but if you left it on your skin for hours and hours, it would have some toxicity to it. And then we just apply a little bit of pressure. Plastic glue is very forgiving to work with because it doesn't glue immediately.
Man, the rain is coming down.
Yeah, so I went out to the mail, got my box, and then the sky opened up.
Nice. How drenched did you get?
Nothing, because it was delivered to my door. I just reached out the door and grabbed it. That saved my box from getting rained on.
That's good.
Alright, then we need D.
Let's put some water back in the pool.
Basically. It's this platform here. And this one's definitely going to need tidying up around the edges.
So what's the point of the objectives? Is that like, I thought basically it was a little like chess where when the opponent had no units left, you won.
If you're playing a small game, you can definitely fight to the death. But if you're playing a large game, it's sometimes impossible to kill the opponent's army.
Really?
Like if you're playing 2,000 points, which is the standard, although we might see 3,000 point games being the standard in 9th edition because of the points increase and the table size minimums. People already have 6x4 tables, so they might play the 3,000 point game because the 2,000 point game actually recommends a slightly smaller table size.
Really?
Yeah. So tournament organizers and whatnot might prefer the larger game because it matches the equipment they already have.
So are the table sizes mandated as well, or are those simply recommendations?
Only the minimum size is mandated. You can play on a table of any size that is at least the minimum size.
That size. So you could play on like some like insanely large table if you really wanted to.
Yeah. But the game is limited to 5 turns, and some scenarios allow you to have 2 additional turns, but no scenario except for small games where the objective is to kill everything have more than 7 turns.
Only 7 turns?
Yeah. a turn is you go, I go. I had a little bit of glue stuck to my finger, and now it's on the objective. So I'm just cleaning it off. So one turn is both players having a turn, and then once both players have finished their turn, it goes back to the first player, and it rolls over to game turn 2.
So, like any other turn and anything else.
Well, see, in Magic, for example, whoever goes first is turn 1, and the second player on their first turn is turn 2, right?
I guess.
Whereas for Warhammer, it's first player's turn 1 and second player's turn 1 are both turn 1 of the game. So there's 14 turns, each player getting 7 of them. But a lot of scenarios call for just 5 rounds and don't give you any extensions.
Any particular reason?
It's just the scenario. Those games still take hours and hours. And like I said, if you're playing orcs, it could take the first turn, just moving your boys, could take like a good 45 minutes.
Yeah, boy.
Because some orc lists would run like 120 boys.
Yeah, boys.
And there's 2 reasons for that. 1, because they're cheap and you could run a lot of them. And 2, some of them would just start moving their boys, 1 model at a time, and then look up at you and grin and see if you concede.
What a dick.
Because it's so many models to move.
You know what the solution to that is?
Getting a coffee.
Well, that, and there's no models to move. There's nothing left living.
Yeah. Orcs have the green tide, so if any model survives, you get to bring the whole unit back.
Jesus.
It's like 2 or 3 command points, and everyone has more command points than ever before now. So in the 2,000 point game, everyone has 12 command points, and instead of gaining command points by making detachments, they actually spend command points to bring extra detachments. The one that has your warlord is free. And some other factions have special rules, like Dark Elves have, if you bring 3 patrol detachments, all of those are free because it's a special faction detachment to bring 3 patrols. And stuff like that. So, there are exceptions to the rule. It's going to give a nice thin coat. The thinner you apply the glue, the more effective it is.
So I didn't see the Silent King in the box. Did you not get him?
No. His model is not released yet. No individual kits are released yet.
Okay.
They've been announced, they've been talked about. They officially spoiled Monolith the other day, like literally yesterday.
So how did you find out about them early?
I mean, it's not like they haven't been spoiling things. It's
well,
just,
yeah, but
they did the like the close up of the Monolith. They did the close up of the Silent King a week or 2 before INDOMITUS dropped. They also had the Chaplain on Bike spoiled that day.
So what's a chaplain?
So he's not a psyker, but he is a support character. So what the Chaplain does is he can sing a litany or whatever
So he's a space guard.
every turn to inspire your troops, and I believe it happens at the start of the turn before the command phase, so you don't have any. So if you're out of command points, you couldn't use a stratagem, because you don't get your command point till afterwards. And he even sings if you go second before the opponent goes, so they're always in effect, basically.
Space Bard.
Yeah. I think they have an inspiring presence and whatnot.
Also, did you see the new Warhammer 40k game on PC?
Maybe. They have
Gladius.
The Civ one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had it. I told you about it.
Maybe I ought to pick it up so we can play it together, huh?
Yeah, so if you're hoping for deep elements, you'll be disappointed because there's only war. It's Civ without the politics.
Aww.
What kind of politics are there if you're Space Marines and the enemy on the map is Tyranids? Come on.
What kind of politics well, I mean, they're Tyranids. But what kind of politics are there if, you're Space Marines and the enemy happen to be Necrons? Or in normal Civ, if you're humans and you're going up against Skaven,
I mean, if it's the Imperium against Necrons, the Necrons just be like, inferior race, submit to us, and then Imperium be like, no, and then they fight. So no matter how you slice it, they're only going to fight anyway.
Inferior race, Jesus.
Well, the Necrons are technologically superior, and they are like as old as time, and to the young races, they'd even appear older than time, because they are one of the last surviving races from the beginning. The Space Elves technically fall under that flag as well, but their race is dying off.
Yeah, Space Elves got fucked, right? They're stuck on craft worlds now.
Yeah, and the craft worlds are falling apart because they're ancient.
Think they'll have a resurgence or come back in a future story expansion?
They'll just have to suck it up and adapt instead of trying to force their own way of doing things onto the universe, because their time has passed. Like the Necrons, their heyday was back during the War in Heaven, which was before any of the other races except for proto-orcs existed. The orcs were originally a bioweapon made by the old ones to fight the Necrons.
Why am I not surprised?
And then when the old ones were vanquished, they just kind of kept existing because they were designed to be unkillable.
What do you think an old one's faction would look like?
Probably look like the Slan. That's what all the theoretical art suggests, and the descriptions suggest. Well, see, originally, Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40,000 were in the same universe.
How the fuck does that work?
Not very well, which is why they noped out of that. But that's why a lot of the Chaos Demons can be played in both games, for example. And why the Chaos Gods are the same, and why a lot of the factions are mirrored. Like the Eldar are High Elves. The Dark Eldar are Dark Elves.
The orcs are the orcs.
Yeah, except with a K instead of a C. The Necrons are Tomb Kings in space. Tyranids are unique, but
And there's no Skaven, I'm assuming.
no, because the Horned Rat doesn't exist in this setting.
Oh well.
Because he's like a fledgling Chaos God. It's not even a real Chaos God yet.
I find it interesting you said yet.
Well, that's his grand plan. is to usurp all the other Chaos Gods. He's a dirty rat. It's his nature, you can't blame him.
Fair point.
This chair is actually a bit of a P and the D to put together. Why they made the seat an entirely separate piece instead of just working it in. Well, it's probably easier to package because it's a bit sticky out. And I had to fit 2 sprues in, but still. There we go. And then just a little bit down here. Get this to sit flush. And this is why plastic glue is so forgiving. You can leave it a bit wet and put parts on so that if they have to be adjusted, they can. And it just sits like that. But I'm not going to glue it down to the base yet, because I want to paint the inside of the tracks and everything. Some people won't care, but if you ever picked it up and looked at it, you can definitely see underneath, so I want to paint it. Next one is super easy. It's literally a front plate and a back plate. And here it is. All the fussing around for the first one, and then they make, like all the other ones, just 2 parts. Boop.
What happened?
And I just did half the model already.
Oh, nice.
It's just 2 parts. Cutting it out's half the battle. And boop. So for this one, I'm actually going to glue it together and then scrape the edges, because for the most part, I'll do it first. This one will be hard to get to when it's attached, because it attaches like this, so it'll be hard to get into that edge. But yeah, a lot of this kit is just 2 parts glued together and then stuck in the base. This one I am going to stick on the base because there's no underside. It's basically shaped like a tombstone, so all the detail is straight up and down. I'm going to scrape the bottom just a little bit to make it even. It doesn't have to be pretty, because this side gets glued down. This has to be flush. So the question is, do you want to see me build the entire INDOMITUS box? It's going to take a long time, probably several streams of nothing but building. And I won't put people through that if they don't want to see it. If they do want to see it, I'll do it. Like, I'm building it anyway. It's just a matter of whether I'm doing it on camera or off camera.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you scrape, it pushes a little bit of plastic over the edge and makes a lip. So you just go at a 45 degree and gently scrape it off and it goes away. Sometimes you need to blow your shavings just to see where you are. Also, if there's a mold line, so running down here, it's hard to see, but there's a very thin line from the 2 pieces of the casing pressing together. Just gently drag the knife down no pressure at all, and it'll take it away. That will show up when you paint it, so it's important to take care of your mold lines. The absolute faintest bump will come through the paint, so just make sure you're happy with the smoothness before you put your base coat on. Or when you dry brush it, that line will stick out like a sore thumb.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
And if you don't dry brush it, and you just do a base coat and a shade, the shade will pool around it because it stops it from flowing.
Be right back in a moment.
Alright. I'm going to order a new glue. This one is getting old. So we want to go up here, all around this edge. Just applying a little thin snail trail of glue all the way down. Press our two halves together, give it a squeeze, and just right away we'll just apply some glue. Then we'll get it situated in the middle. I like to wiggle mine around a bit, spreads the glue out, and roughs up the surface slightly. So because plastic glue melts the plastic, if you put it down and slide it, it'll have like gooey tendrils. And what that does gives you more contact points. So it gives a stronger bond when it dries. You have to do it when it's fairly wet though. If you let it dry too long and you do that, it'll make a weaker bond because it'll be held on by strings. But if you do it when it's nice and wet, you'll get a good strong bond. Alright, last one for the Imperium sprue. And once again, it's just two halves snipped right out.
I am returned.
So we have like Sisters of Battle terrain. We have like a very AdMech terrain and another very AdMech terrain. It's very interesting because neither of those factions have anything to do with the Indomitus box, which these are supposed to be the battle zone set pieces for. Although Sisters appeared in the trailer.
Why are the Sisters not getting their own thing?
Well, they just had a big box set come out. When their Plastic Sisters released, it was like a big deal. And that just came out. They also had Psychic Awakening, so they got a new book. But it should have been Sisters. In the preview video, it starts with Sisters of... Well, it starts with Imperial Guard fighting Necrons and getting ruined. And then Sisters of Battle coming in and rescuing them. And then, when the Sister starts losing, Space Marines come in and take over, basically. Then the Scorpic Lord shows up and it fades to black. So, could have been Imperial Guard, could have been Sisters, but they chose Space Marines, because always Space Marines. And the name Indomitus is from Space Marines. It's the Indomitus Crusade, which is Guilliman's battle force that went out to reunite the Imperium after it was shattered by the Eye of Terror, which is like a warp nebula. So he went out to reestablish all the colonies and reinforce the ones that were getting ruined, and gives primary Space Marines to all the chapters. And this part of the story is actually at the end of the Indomitus Crusade, when they go to the Pariah Nexus, which is how they control Necron players, by throwing the word Pariah around as much as possible without actually giving us a Necron Pariah back. And that's where they find this battle force as the response to Space Marines poking around where they weren't welcome. And then Illuminor Xeris probably shows up, and maybe the Silent King. But right now it's just this battle. No one's called reinforcements yet.
The Silent King interests me greatly.
The Silent King is indeed very interesting. Okay. Now I know where I'm going to put my glue. I want to kind of put it half on, half off. So I want it to fit in the recess nicely, but I don't want it to squeeze through as much as possible. So I want to put it like on the edge, so it's a bit behind, a bit on the side. That should give it a nice strong bond. I'm going to try not to get it anywhere it's not supposed to go. But if the glue does go somewhere else, and it doesn't contact any other plastic, then when it dries, it'll be fine. And if you get any glue on your thumb or your finger, just make sure you wipe it off before you touch the plastic again, or else you'll leave melted in fingerprints on your plastic. And we'll just go right ahead and glue this one to the base as well, because it has no detail that we could pick out by actually having it off the base. There are some models that you just absolutely cannot glue to the base before you paint it, or you just won't be able to do a lot of the detail on it. This is not one such model. It actually hangs off a bit. And they don't show it fully stuck down. So, according to the back of the box, it sits about here, just a little bit hanging off this end. So using that as a measurement, that piece is done. Now, we're on to the Necron half. Now, the Necron half has some... The pieces are actually named. They don't tell you the name in the box, but if you go on their website, it tells you the name. There's, like, Ruined Necron Architecture is one of them, which I think is this one. Anyway. First comes this one, which has a bit of a decorative base to it. It's clips out very nicely. And I'm actually not going to trim the edges of this one because it's debris and scarabs, so being a little bit rough around the edge isn't going to be a problem. It's naturally rough. And then it's just 2 halves. And it will not need much cleaning up either. Has very few contact points, and they're clipping out quite nicely. If you overscrape, it actually causes more damage. So, for this one, you want to go across the model like this. You don't really want to go like this too much, because you'll end up biting into the model and putting a lip on it, on the front and back side. So it's better to go just across this way. For trimming these ones, there's 2 angles here. There's the flat side on the outside, and there's the angled side. So you just put your knife flat against it, scrape it, and scrape it. Then the bottom, just do a quick scrape. And the reason that you scrape it on this angle is because sometimes when you scrape the flat part, it causes a lip to form, and we just want to take that away. Also, sometimes when you clip it out, it'll cause a lip. Sometimes it comes on both sides, but it's not a problem here. This fits together like that. And we're just gonna trace along the outside. Nice thin layer of glue. You can even put dots down if you want. Doesn't need to be a continuous line. I just do a line because it's easy. Dots are technically better because it gives you a higher number of contact points, which actually improves your strength. So when you're gluing something, if you glue it in one blob, it's weaker than if you glue it in lots of little dots. Because if it starts to break, and it's a big blob,
You don't have any redundancy.
Yeah, it'll the crack will just continue through the entire blob of glue. Whereas if you have little dots and one cracks, then it breaks off, and all the other little dots around it are fine.
Yeah.
And there we go. And I'll glue it down. Terrain's very satisfying. It's quick to paint. It's quick to build. It doesn't even have to look particularly good because it's battlefield terrain. So it can just be battle scarred. It's like orcs. If you're a bad painter, you're actually further ahead than a good painter when you're painting orcs. Because orc stuff is painted by orcs. That's that.
Give me one moment. I have all this. Sorry, son of a bitch.
It's all good. So this one is just the base plate, which once again has a ruined texture, so won't even need tidying up. That's on a rock, so I might tidy that one up. And then we just need to clip this out, and this is just one piece, not even 2 plates. Super easy. I do appreciate that if they have to put a flow channel down here, they at least put it on the part you glue down. So we'll just clean up. Okay, and we want to clean the molding line too. Just want to flatten this part out. Here at the top, both sides. And also here. This side is a bit battle damaged. So just be careful you don't take the natural texture out when you're taking your lines out. And a little bit here in this rock, because rocks are smooth. Just moving downwards. Alright. Just add a little dollop of glue to the contact points. Give it a galactic blowjob. And stick it in. And then stick it on. Once again, I like to use a line of glue, even though dots are theoretically better. I don't expect this piece of terrain to be under a lot of shearing force. It's a very light model, and like if you hit it, it'll just move the entire base. Center that a little bit more. Like the most extreme force applied to it will either be now, while it's being built, or when I'm dry brushing it. Through its lifespan, it'll probably never experience greater force than those 2 times, even if I drop it. And the final piece, it's only 3 parts. This one, it's actually 4 parts. They hid the skull on me. I hate when they put the joint at the top of the skull. Necron skulls always put the flow channel on the chin. Come on, Games Workshop. The chin's flat, the head's round. Don't do this to me. And they're doing this weird thing. They did it in the Indomitus box too, where they have the neck and the head go together like this, instead of having the skull be its own thing. So if you had like a collection of old Necron skulls, it'd be a pain in the arse to put them on the new models. Which for a lot of conversions, it was really important to be able to swap skulls.
I'm back.
Welcome back. This is the final piece. Probably will glue this to the base because there's enough gap that I'm very likely to get the paintbrush in there. So let's clean up torso bit. And we'll clean up the head bit, which I absolutely hate that they put the flow channel on the dome and not on the chin, which is flat.
Yeah.
Because sometimes your clippers bite a little bit too much and leave a flat spot where the cut was. It's no good on the dome.
I had a question, by the way.
Shoot.
What time do you work tomorrow?
6 to 2:30.
Okay, cool. Wait, no, not cool. Never mind. Fuck.
It's the opposite of cool.
'Cause I was going to do a stream tonight, and I didn't know whether you'd be available.
I mean, you could still do a stream tonight, and I can be here for part of it. Maybe.
Well, I'm going to be starting earlier, hopefully, because I don't have anywhere I have to go today. I was looking at maybe debuting Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah. You do whenever. I need to make supper for Grandma still, but aside from that, I'm going to finish building the other 18 warriors from my other Indomitus kit. Not the whole kit, mind you, but the Necron half that I bought from my friend who only plays Space Marines. And then we still haven't decided whether I'm going to build this box, which is the entire collection, on camera or not.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
Some people just aren't really into the building. And in fairness, a lot of it, because of, comfort, I end up doing a lot of it off camera, just out of frame. I'm going to buy a new camera soon, but it won't be in time for this. Durf knows about it already.
Yeah, and as far as recommendations go, I would almost get like there's tripods you can get that mount to your desk. They look like boom arms for microphones.
Yeah.
Where you can position a camera however you like.
Why don't you go ahead and see if you could find one compatible for the model that we settled on?
I don't exactly recall which of the two we settled on, because we had it narrowed down to 2 models.
It's in Skype. And we don't talk a whole lot in Skype, so once you get past all your line faces, it should be very obvious.
I mean, I didn't know what was going on last night. I didn't know if I was staying on. I didn't know if I was going to go ahead and do the main mission. I know what was going on.
Yeah, but, I just can't have a single Prime streaming night, apparently.
No, you can't.
Alright, so.
Was it in Skype or Discord?
There
they are. I found them.
I was going to say, the actual conclusion was definitely in Skype.
I think we settled on that cannon.
Sounds familiar. Because that one's better for recording. Less good for streaming, but still passable, as I recall.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is with going with a traditional camera for streaming, you have to pipe the video in somehow. And unless you have a camera that's designed for that, it makes things difficult. Oh my god, I just ran across that Thomas the Train thing again. Thing's fucking creepy, man.
I forgot about that. I love that thing.
That thing is fucking creepy. Head pops out of the fucking neck. Looks like it's made of wax.
Everyone I send that to is like, thanks, I don't need to sleep tonight. I just replied that this is how I remember it. It's not, by the way. No one remembers it like that.
Obvious. Where did the fucking creepy ass nightmare fuel Thomas the Train thing originate even?
Who knows? Why is Thomas even a meme anyway?
Why did Spider-Man become a meme? I don't know. I mean, you can ask these questions. I don't think we'll ever get answers.
Next thing you know, the Isle of Sodor is going to be the Isle of Sodom.
Gomorrah.
I don't think I'm going to glue this down, just because it'll be easier to dry brush off. But here is the full 9th edition terrain set.
What is that?
This?
Yeah.
It's a warrior in a stasis field. You know how I can tell it's a warrior?
Oh.
Because its shoulder pads don't cover the front part of its shoulders, only the back part. If it was an immortal, it would have a full pad instead of a half pad.
Interesting. Why is it only half a warrior?
Because they have a 4-up armor save instead of a 3-up. So I guess that's just how they represent it. Is they have less armor
No, I'm saying, why does he not have any legs?
Because he's fucked up. He's in a stasis field.
Okay.
So it's painted up with lightning and shit. I'll probably make the lightning green because Sawtech. But
Makes sense to me.
it's also a good practice for painting warp lightning, I guess. But anyway, I'm guessing because that's a Necron terrain, although this part doesn't look very Necron-y. So I'm guessing that the AdMech put a Necron in stasis so it couldn't regenerate so they could study it. That's what I'm going to guess, because the whole structure around here doesn't look very Necron-y. Necrons don't have gears or anything. So even though there's a Necron on it, and it's on the Necron sprue, I'm actually saying that this is probably an AdMech terrain where they've captured a warrior. That's what it looks more like to me.
Okay.
But I bought the entire kit for these two things. The rest is just gravy.
So what's the backup plan once the Emperor actually dies?
I mean, the Emperor's dead. He's in a stasis chair.
No, I know.
If the stasis chair breaks, then chaos just comes into the material universe, and there's nothing I can do about it.
There's no like backup plan or anything?
No, he's the sole force holding all of chaos back. The only backup plan is letting the Necrons do what they want. No one likes that plan either.
Not a very good plan, Chef.
Well, they almost succeeded. So at the end of the War in Heaven, they started building pylons on one of the planets. Was it Cadia? I can't remember. It was one of the important named planets that we always talk about. And they were like a few pylons away from completing it. If they completed the network, it would have completely separated real space from the immaterium. There's a few problems with that. If you're alive, basically disconnects you from your soul, so you probably won't be alive anymore, so that kind of sucks. If you're psychic, you're completely cut off from all psychic power that ever existed, so that kind of sucks. But
that kind of suck.
But the Necrons, being soulless, were fine with that, and they can't use psychic powers, and the old ones did. And they were at war with the old ones, so it was like the greatest plan ever. Take away the old one's only real weapon.
Makes sense to me.
It also would have saved the entire universe from chaos. And then when someone broke it, then the Eye of Terror ripped the Imperium in half and became this huge thing instead of just a little piece of ass.
Jesus Christ.
So they really should. The moral of the story is, don't touch Granddad's toys. I'm going to open these packages. For now, I'm glad this isn't a package of scissors, because you know what the worst thing is? We need scissors to open the package of scissors. But you could probably just pull this apart, surely. I'm gonna end the stream soon, so I'm not gonna be able to do much more. But I did want to showcase the objective marker set, because no one really talks about it. This is actually pretty heavy. So it's got the Imperial Eagle on it, but it's also kind of like Necron crackles across the eagle. I like it. It's handy. And it just literally goes like this to measure distance. So yeah, that's how you use it. You got a demonstration.
Nice.
And I guess as a bit of a bonus content, we'll open up chapter approved. No one really talks about that either. It's always Indomitus, Indomitus, Indomitus. Well, this time, I got Indomitus sitting right in front of me, but guess what we're not talking about? I like them apples. Controversial as always.
Pretty good apples.
It's like a meme now, me throwing shit in the floor. So here's the field manual. You can actually see it now. And it literally just has all of the points values in really tiny print for everything.
Wow.
That's all this is points for every model. So let's look in the talk. And Xenos. Necrons, page 32. Because I got the Necron shirt on. Alright. Do they have any of the new stuff? That's what's important, really. Otherwise, you have to wait until October for the Codex to come out and see what the points are. Ooh, doesn't look like it. Nope. So they only have everything up to 8th edition in this book. But it is the updated points. So a monolith.
That's aggravating.
A monolith is 270 points, plus weapons. It only has one weapon option, up to 8th, so I don't know why they don't just include it. But I believe it goes to 350 with weapons. The Tesseract Vault is 550 points before weapons. Most of the weapons do cost 0. Because they're included in the... Because I never understood why Necron weapons cost points when most of the models don't have weapon options. They literally only have that one weapon. So just include it in the cost and make it 0. Furthermore, we have Forge World point values, which Necrons is 52. Why they couldn't just include those? Like, why couldn't they just have, like, the stuff, and then, under Inquisition, just have the stuff, and then under tab, Forge World? Anyway, Necrons. The Fortification, the Tomb Citadel, 730 points before gear. That's our terrain piece. It's a Forge World model, of course. The Seraptech Heavy Construct is 660 points before gear. And let's just look at the gear. It is... Actually, can't find it. Twin Tesla Destructor, Twin Gauss Slicers, Tesseract Singularity Chamber, Tesla Destructor, Tesla Cannon, Tesla Arc, Particle Beamer, Heat Cannon, Gauss Exterminator, Gauss Cannon, Gauss Annihilator, Focus Death Ray, Exile Cannon. The one I chose has its own separate instruction book because Forge World weapons are that awesome. Was Synaptic Obliterators. I don't see Synaptic Obliterators on here. So I'm guessing they're included in that 660 points. Right. So, then we have the chapter-approved Grand Tournament 2020 Mission Pack, which this is the book that most people care about. And it's got more deployment, more missions, actions, terrain traits. The terrain traits is important. It's also in the core rulebook, I believe. Rare rules. Interesting title. It's got a little glossary. Very handy book. It's basically got all the important parts from the big core rulebook in a handy little pocket-sized book that you can take to tournaments. I think that'll do it for now. So I need to go take care of adult responsibilities. I thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, drop me a follow. It helps out a lot. Subscribe if you're affluent. Check out Durf, Hadil Sumi, and all those other people that are linked in our channels.
Hopefully doing Ghost of Tsushima tonight if all goes well.
Yeah, he might even start, like, literally when I finish, if he wants to get a super early start. I don't know when he's planning to start. When are you planning to start?
How long's dinner gonna take you? Best guess.
Probably, I'm not even gonna do hot dog or sausage. Hot dog doesn't take long to cook. Sausage takes a while to cook.
Let's try, I'm gonna shoot for around 6 o'clock then.
Alright, and if I'm not here, just start without me. But we will catch you next time. We will start building the INDOMITUS stuff. I would set up a poll if I figured anyone was watching, but I haven't had anyone comment, so I'm going to guess that no one's actually watching. So we'll do Space Marines first, and then we'll do Necrons.
Makes sense to me.
Because there's way more Necrons. The Space Marines have more points, I'm pretty sure. But the Necrons have 20 warriors. That's a lot of models. So I'll catch you next time.
Good night, everybody.